Fall 2016, Module 10, Part 8, and this is our last part for Module 10. In this segment, we're going to be looking at additional features within the solver. We're going to be looking at how to save our solver and then load in a solver that we have previously saved. But we're also going to be looking at the impact that entering the wrong objective can have on your solutions. One of the most important details when you're working with Solver is the correct objective. So here's an example. I have a client that for years their focus was on maximizing total revenue or total sales. Their logic was that if I sell more, I'll make more money. So as long as I keep selling more, I will make more money. The problem is they kept lowering the price to get the sale. And every time they lowered the price, they didn't stop to consider the fact that the cost of all their component parts that they were using to build the product were going up. So at one point, they actually started selling their product for less than it cost them to manufacture it. So if you could imagine, I am buying a case of Coke and I spend $1 per bottle. I come into my class and I say, I'd like to sell you these Cokes. And so I'm going to sell each one for 50 cents. I could probably get a lot of buyers, but every Coke I sold, I was losing money. And it's pretty easy to fall into that if you're not keeping track of where your costs are. So let's take a look at how Solver and changing our objective can give us inconsistent results. All right, so we have already created a solver. We were maximizing net optimal income, and we have two different styles of reports that we created. One that had the outline so that you only saw the detail down here of your constraints if you clicked the plus. And the other one, this one here, did not have the outline style. So here you have a range of cells. If you click the plus, it shows you the individual details. Without the outline style, it just automatically shows them. So let's go back into our product mix. And we are going to look at how we can save this solver. So before we save, we're going to create a heading for where we can save it. So I am going to go over here to A26 and I'm going to type in maximum net income model. I'm going to format that cell. So we are going to use a cell style, which are on the Home tab. 40% accent 2. And now we're ready to save our solver. So we're going to go back to the Data tab and we're going to open up Solver. You'll notice that what we entered before is still there. As long as you save your work, it'll still be there. We're going to load and save. And it wants to know, where are you going to put it? Now, I don't want to put it here. I want to put it right below it. So I'm going to click on A27, and I am going to save. When you're saving the solver, you only need to put the starting cell. You do need to make sure you have enough room, because you notice here, these trues, you're going to have one line for each constraint you had. So if you had entered each of these as individual cells, you would have 4, 8, 9, and then however many that would be. So you would have probably 15, 20, 25 true or falses, but you'd have a lot. So clearly, if you use the ranges, you minimize how much space you need to save it. On your SAM projects, if you don't enter them the way they're shown as far as a range as opposed to individual cells, they may not fit in the space that they have allotted on your worksheet. All right, let's go ahead and close our solver. And we're going to come back in. Before we do make any changes, I'm going to type a number over here, because this cell here is going to change the answer because it's showing it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type what it is currently. I want to be able to see what the change is in my net income. All right, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change my optimal back to 3,000 each, so that I go back to that level playing field. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to open up my solver. Now the only thing I'm going to change in my solver is I'm going to change the objective. We're not going to change the changing cells, nor are we going to change the constraints. We're only going to change the objective. So instead of saying I want to maximize my revenue or my net income, I'm going to say that I want to take the materials cost and minimize those. So I changed from maximizing net income to minimizing materials cost. Then I'm going to click Solve. I'm going to go ahead and say keep the solution, and I'm going to tell it to create an answer report. You can use your preference whether you have the outlines or not. And I'm going to click OK. So now I have a new answer report, and you can see I started out with material cost of $1,860,000, and we were able to bring that material cost down. And it shows us the new products. It shows us what was binding and what wasn't. And so far, it looks like maybe that would have been a good decision. But let's take a look at the net income. We minimized our materials cost, but look at the loss in our net income. It dropped by over $40,000. So significant loss by focusing on the wrong objective. So let's go ahead and come down here to A36, and we're going to type in minimum material cost model. And I'm going to come over here, excuse me, I bumped the mouse. And we're going to type in my new net income, 285512. I'm going to set that cell style to be accent to 40%. And then I'm going to open up my solver again so that I can save this new one. So we're going to click Data, Solver, and we're going to click to load and save. Click in the starting cell and click Save. So now I might say, you know what, I want to go back. I need to get the old one back in there. And in this case, it would be pretty easy to manually do that. But you could have the situation where you had changed a bunch of the constraints and you'd changed a whole bunch of other information, and now you just want to go back to where you were before. So what we're going to do is we're going to load the solver that we previously saved. So to do that, you're going to click Load. And instead of just having one cell, you need to highlight all of the cells that have data in them. So you're going to highlight A27 through A34 because that is all the information from the prior solver. And then you're going to click Load. Now it wants to know, are you trying to replace what you have or merge the two together? We want to replace. So we're going to click Replace. It sets it back to the way it was. Now if we click Solve, we can again keep our solution and create another answer report. And you can see this one didn't change things. I'm wondering why. Sometimes when you run a solver and you don't reset your data, it can cause problems. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this. And then open solver back up. We have our maximum net income in there. And when I click Solve, now it went back up. So that's how you're going to load or save. You're going to go to the solver. You're going to choose the Load and Save button. If you are trying to save, you click in one cell and click Save. If you are trying to load, you highlight all of the cells and then you click Load and you tell it whether you want to replace or merge. Go ahead and close Solver. And that concludes working with our solver tool. So I'm going to save my workbook. And I do want to point out that if you save the workbook, Once you open up Solver again, the information is still going to be there. The same way, if I went back to my income and worksheet and opened up the scenario manager, my scenarios are still all in places there as well. So that concludes our what if analysis tools that are within Excel. What if analysis is one of the best features of Excel because it allows us in businesses to say, what if I changed this price? What is that going to do to my company? What if I increased the advertising expense and then because of that I thought I could sell another 500 units? How is that going to impact me on the bottom line? And then you can try to make decisions about whether the additional advertising funds make sense. So you'd want to save your work, and then that includes Module 10.